Maybe after 7 shots of bourbon and 7 puffs of magic plants, she's the love of my life. But whether stone cold sober, tipsy or high, I'm always down to bang. Namaste, dosto. My name is Gurusha, and this was my first day of being off grid. Almost. Almost in the sense, one time I was asked to switch on my phone for an OTP, and then I quickly switched it back off. My laptop doesn't, like, I have disconnected the Wi Fi. So, off grid. How did I spend my day? I spent my day being kind of sick because I think I have food poisoning, but I slept most of the day. But I guess for 8 hours straight, I set up the rest of my library, set up my books, mattresses. This is my palette. I had 3 boxes to unpack, and I have no idea कि 3 boxes में कितना सामान हो सकता है. So I sorted that out now. Everything is sorted out. See, these are my paints. I stole organizers from my sister's room because now she's married. That's my mother's old stereo. Wow. And I have a lot of stuff to show. So I'm not gonna waste time there, but my new easel, my canvases, my brushes sorted. Some of it is my original art. This is obviously Rabindranath Tagore. This is my work, mixed media. This is also my work, pencil. This is also my work, oil pastel. This is my work, acrylic, and this is also acrylic. This is my stamp collection. Some postcards. This is by the world renowned artist. It was originally by Amrita Shergill, but now it's Miss Abida Ajit. Other than setting up my library, I spent most of the day doing exactly this. I'll show you. And honestly, it's kind of banger. I completely recommend switching off and doing. Wow. It's indisputably tedious to explain to people why my phone is turned off, and there are several reasons as to why I did what I did, and I can easily blame it on vices and say I want to get rid of the fifth limb and I don't want to be chained to my phone anymore and all that shit. While this is not completely false, it's also not the entire truth. In fact, I took this entry out on some roses fell out. Okay. On 18th July 2025, I wrote, I'm not indoctrinated enough for this world. I see patterns and connections and answers to questions your mind is too afraid to form. Short form content, employment, economic crisis, hyper surveillance, fascism. If you feel fine, if you feel well adjusted in this cyberpunk dystopia of a world, you are part of the problem. Capitalism offers me therapy for problems it created to begin with. It strips me of my knowledge and my mental health and resources and everything Mother Earth has to offer and sells it back to me in pretty bottles, in foods that look inedible, in clothes that reek of blood. I'm more obsessed than ever with vanity. Which is true, honestly. I know it sounds very. It's full of agony, but it is what it is. And half of the truth is as banal and as predictable as it can be. I had a really tough conversation with someone which didn't sit right with me, and it made me realize what a fucking loser I've been. I turned off my phone. I went through my journals from, I guess, from 2016 to up until a month ago, and I realized that somewhere down the line I've been stuck in a fucking rut. I've always felt stuck, but at least before, as much as I can track, before 2018, I was constantly making art, writing shitty poems. I poured my misery into something and turned it into something even more miserable. And what happened is that in 11th grade, I convinced my girlfriend at the time, because that's the time that you're, you know, deciding what stream to get into. I remember I convinced my girlfriend at the time to get into humanities, because I saw a writer in her, because she was so good at writing, and I saw an artist in myself. But 3 months later, something happened. I switched to science. I ended up doing engineering. I ended up moving to the UK to get my master's in business. And I thought I would be a consulting corporate weapon. And it took me about 7 rejections, or even like 7 full rejections, I would say, but many more rejections and 3 trips to London to actually figure out I actually don't want this. I don't see myself doing this long term. And what I wanted to begin with was to not lose touch of painting and writing no matter what I'm doing. And I can't even properly read anymore, let alone write. And it constantly feels like I'm living off of the person that I used to be. I used to do that. I used to do that. And I want to continue to be, and not linger off of what I used to be. And it feels like I'm supposed to mourn a loss right now, but for fucking once, I feel so happy and liberated. I've been too paralyzed to talk to my friends about how I feel, not just in the recent times, always, as long as I can fucking remember, and about what's going in my life or what am I even doing. And they think that I don't tell them anything, but it's like, okay, why didn't you talk about this before? Why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you tell me that? But I can't. I physically fucking can't. Maybe because the only way I know how to communicate is to make something shitty. And what is super funny about all of this thing about me letting her choose humanities is that she calls me in like the final year of her literature degree, and she's high and crying that I am so glad that I'm sitting here under a tree reading Virginia Woolf, because I love literature and I don't know what I would be without it. And I don't know who I am without it, if not this person who deeply loves Virginia Woolf and literature. And look at me. Look, I don't need to explain this further. It's just funny. It's just funny that we basically castled, switched paths. I think I forgot to give the context that she was about to take science, but yeah, that was the case. Speaking of Virginia Woolf, short plug of this book. It changed my life. And if you're a woman, you should read it. Period. और honestly, अब ये सब चीज़ें बोल के और प्लेइंग इट बैक टू माई सेल्फ, तो ऐसा लगता है कि इतनी बड़ी बात नहीं है. और एक्चुअली हमेशा लाइफ में मेरा प्रॉब्लम है कि हर चीज़ शेयर करके मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये तो इतनी बड़ी बात ही नहीं थी. और मैं लोगों को शेयर भी इसलिए नहीं करती कि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मेरी प्रॉब्लम्स मैटर नहीं करती. पेंट एंड राइट एंड येस आई कैन, बट डू आई वॉन्ट टू? What do I want? I don't know. यशुद्धि बल्ले बल्ले, यशुद्धि बल्ले बल्ले. बट पॉइंट मेरा ये है कि मैं एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर सकती, या मैं सामने वाले को समझा नहीं सकती, नो मैटर मैं क्या बोलूँ, मैं क्या लिखूँ, मैं क्या बनाऊँ, कि हाउ एंग्जाइटी हैम्पर्स मी. एक काफका का जो कोट है, something that's happening in my bones can only be felt in those bones and it's inexplicable, you know, that quote. It just hampers me from doing anything, from feeling anything, from saying anything, creating anything. That's why I feel stuck, and that's why I cut off. मैं क्या, नमस्ते अंकल जी. हेलो. Yesterday was an impeccably arduous day because I was carrying around my laptop everywhere at work to do tasks that I could simply do on my phone because I refuse to switch it back on for anything other than an extremely important OTP, maybe. Nothing other than that. What have I been doing? Yesterday was very productive work wise, but not so productive reflection wise. I did not, in fact, switch off my mind and go like as I did on the first day. I couldn't do much of that. I couldn't do that until very late in the night when I was actually free and alone. What I have been doing since then is reading the Adi Granth, which is the Guru Granth Sahib, but in Hindi. And I've been reading the Bhagavad Gita on like an AI. AI can help you do that now. Wow, what a wild thing. And then there are some verses that I would love to share, but I haven't fully grasped them just yet. I have been looking for something that will change my life, right? Fix me. But then I realized very quickly that's not how it works. But I did want to talk about one thing. So, back in 2021, I kind of had a phase where I got really into Buddhism and I discovered, I don't know how, I guess if you're doing any basic research on Buddhism, you'll stumble upon the 21 Taras and the green Tara Mata and the white Tara. So I got really fascinated by her for some reason, and I feel like my life kind of changed after that for a while. And I couldn't help but go back to researching more about her like a couple of nights ago. And I got to know about her story that she was a compassionate princess, sort of, in a kingdom, and she was extremely compassionate and kind. And when asked to go into enlightenment, she chose not to go into enlightenment in her male form, in her male yoni, because that's what people had been doing up until then. But she was the only fearless one who chose to do it in her female form. Kind of a baddie, if I do say so myself. And then I realized that I wrote something that I'm not going to show, but I drew her back then, and I feel like she's very beautiful, and I've been extremely fascinated by her and what she's about. I know a lot more about her than I can say in under 2 minutes, but this journal really helped me get into what my mind was like 4 years back. Today marks the final day of attempting to be off grid while still functioning in a society somehow. What I learned, I didn't miss anything or anyone, because as soon as I went back on social media and started talking to people, realized I didn't miss that at all. I didn't miss Instagram reels or Sallu Bhai memes. I'm adding a halo of birds because it's emblematic of the fact that when I started, uh, I was dissatisfied, and then I feel like this thing became more spiritual than it is, and it has been for the last 5 years for me. But I'm still realizing that I've come very far, but there is still a long way to go. Testimonial from a person. What do you have to say about my experience? Little that you know about it, but what?
मैं एक्चुअली देखिए जी, ऐसे जो आप MI हो गई एकदम से, मुझे तो टेंशन हो गई थी कि हमारी दीदी जी हमें मतलब कहाँ चली गई हैं एकदम से. फिर हमें पता चला दीदी जी फ़ोन डिटॉक्स पे गई हैं. एंड देन
She thought I was ignoring her.
या आई मीन ऐसे कुछ नहीं किया है. आई मीन एंड फिर मेरे को पता चला दीदी हमारी वृंदावन वाली टॉक्स को एक्चुअली सीरियस ले गई कि फेंको इस फ़ोन को. एंड सॉरी इन्होंने एक्चुअली फ़ोन डिटॉक्स कर लिया. आई मीन आई थिंक इट्स अ वेरी गुड इनिशिएटिव एंड आई वुड लाइक टू ट्राई दिस someday.
But till now,
are we
talking about what came out of it, learned how to be bored again.